Welcome to Grow Her Wings, a podcast by the Malou Project, a 501c3 based in Jacksonville, Florida, with a mission to connect girls to aviation. We are your hosts, Jen and Carrie, and we invite you to join us as we meet new people, talk to old friends, and learn new lessons on the path to inspire more of us to grow our wings.
All right, Carrie. So today we're joined by Carol Carpenter. She is the founder for Track Events and MotoVixens, super attractive, sexy company there, getting girls into motorcycle racing, which is awesome.
And track days.
And track days, yeah. Such an attractive field and a thing that's just like us, except we do it in the sky. She does it on the racetrack. So I'm so glad you're here, Carol. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Carrie, my first thing to Carol I want to know is, how did you get into motorcycle racing?
Oh, by chance. I was getting divorced and I had always wanted to try things, and I was raising kids. I got married, I raised kids, and they got to a certain age and I was like, now what do I do with my life? So I kind of had a little bucket list of things I'd like to do. And one of them was to ride motorcycles and shoot guns and, do all kinds of fun stuff that, I didn't do because it either wasn't proper. I didn't have the time or the energy to devote to it. This was a time where I could kind of just explore a little bit more. And so I actually went and did both almost simultaneously. And it was again, purely by chance. And who knew that I was going to end up loving it and want to learn more and teach other women as well, and it wasn't focused on teaching other women. It was just, I was so passionate about it. I wanted to share it with everybody.
And you said that was shooting and racing?
Yeah.
Carrie, you shoot, I think.
That's awesome. Yeah, I shoot. I thought you were shooting and racing. I'm like, I've never gotten on a motorcycle purely because I happen to be quite accident prone and I have enough problems on the one that I pedal under my own power. Yeah, but I really do enjoy shooting. So I just think that's amazing. Shooting and racing. So
yeah.
Ever at the same time?
Yeah, because, I can't just do one. I figured I'd try both. I figured if I hated one, I'd still have the other to fall back on.
That is so true. Do you still shoot, or do you shoot competitively at all?
No, I don't shoot competitively. I think mainly for me at the time, I was raising two boys, and, getting divorced and you're single, I wanted to be able to defend myself for the safety of my household. And not that I really needed to, but I just don't like ever feeling helpless.
Right. Yes. How old are your kids?
23 and 25.
How old were they when you got divorced? If you don't mind me asking.
I want to say 16 and 13-ish, around there. Yeah, it was a weird time.
Yeah. Oh, I bet with teenagers too.
Teenagers?
Oh, God. Yeah, I was the odd girl out. I even got a female dog to balance it out because I was just like, this is way too much testosterone in my house.
That's awesome. So, I just had lunch with a girlfriend of mine, and she was kind of talking about how she felt as though, she's not as attractive as a person because she's a single mom, and, and I'm like, she's the most beautiful person I've ever met in my whole life. I don't know how in the world she even comes to this.
All three of you are the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life, and all single moms.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's a mindset. I think that society puts on us after we have kids. You used to be this, beautiful individual human being, but now that, you have kids, does that make us lesser than?
I wonder how much of that is. I don't see it. I've never thought of myself as lesser than as a single mom. I'm still this person. But I mean, it was interesting to me that she had that kind of self-talk to herself that she wasn't as important or as lovely as she always has been, her light, she felt like she didn't see it. And so I just wondered from your perspective, when you were going through that, and I mean, obviously it takes a little bit of courage to go ride motorcycles and shoot. Like, what was your mindset? How did you get to that, from that, of like this hurt of the divorce and then to riding?
My kids were getting older. I mean, they were going to be leaving the house, and I had been a mom for what, 20 odd years, right? Well, I shouldn't say mom. I was married and then I became a mom. And so that's almost 20 years of my life that I was out of the workforce. I mean, that I had to do something with my life. And I always knew deep down inside, my sole purpose in life wasn't just to be a mom and a wife. And even though my identity was wrapped up in that at that point, I always knew there was something more. And I wasn't sure what it was yet. And sometimes you just got to take that leap of faith, oh, I'm going to take this chance and try this and try this. Who knows what you're going to like? I mean, at the end of the day, I ended up liking both. What are the odds, right?
No, I think that's amazing. That's such a beautiful state. People get wrapped up in that identity of being a mom, and to Carrie, like, I know that you haven't been a mom, so that also is a challenging thing, right? And this is such an important conversation, I think, for all women to have, like, as transparent and open as possible.
You're not alone. Literally, all of us have gone through the feelings you're going through, regardless of what they are, even down to the depression part. I mean, we've all gone through it.
Yes, I agree. And it's so often I'll read things that will be like the expectations, and I try not to read them from a position of, well, I'm not doing any of that. So did I somehow miss a step? And then I meet my nieces for a weekend and find out, no, I was totally meant to be super aunt of the world.
Mm-hmm.
My identity for the longest time was, I'm a woman that got married and never had kids. And I was like, I would look at that and go, man, did I miss a step?
Right.
A lot of people like me. So
Yes.
I'm not alone.
There are a lot of women that decide not to have children, or just because life moved on, couldn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't mean you missed a step. It just means it wasn't in your cards, and you make the best of it.
Right. For the longest time, I felt I missed a step. So,
oh God,
they're feeling that way. You didn't miss a step.
No.
Everybody's life path is different.
You have a different path. It's a different journey. Our journey is our own, and it's unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So let's get back to cool stuff like riding motorcycles. What's the best you ever been?
So you started out taking a lesson, found out you loved it, then what?
Well, actually, I went and got my endorsement, and mainly it was just to ride on the street. And that was, so you go through the MSF course to get the endorsement, right? And I went through that course and I hated it. It was miserable for me. It was not a great experience because I never even learned to drive a manual shift car. So everything was always automatic. So getting my head wrapped around like gearing and, all that, RPM, all that was like new to me. But I asked a ton of questions, and I thought in their minds, like, what is this chick doing? Right? Like, she should not be doing this. And it wasn't the only person that said that. I mean, my brother was like, can't you pick something else to do that's less dangerous? And I just thought, wow, that kind of hurts. Ouch. Like, because I'm female, I can't do it. Because I'm a mom, it'd be irresponsible, which I also got from several people, even people after I got divorced and I was dating, would say, well, don't you think that's irresponsible to do something so risky? And my thought was, well, I was an individual before I had children, and I always wanted to do this. What makes it different because I do have it? I understand the risk and I'm very careful. It's calculated risk.
Isn't that interesting?
Also the risk of not doing is, what example am I setting for my children who I'm trying to say, go out there and be and do what you want.
Right.
You're not doing that.
Well, but then you're coming from a place of fear. And are you going to let that debilitate you and drive your decisions? I mean, just because you're afraid of it, why not try it? Maybe you're afraid of it because you don't understand it.
I love it. I still love it. Yeah.
And it was that. I mean, I sucked in the beginning. I'm not gonna lie, I sucked, and then it took me going, okay, I hate sucking, and I hate not feeling confident. Right. And so I started taking, I went to other states and went to track schools that are kind of big name schools. And I tried, their program, and some of them were really good. And I learned a lot. And by the time I came back, the people that I went street riding with could not believe my improvement. And I became extremely confident. At that point, I went and started instructing for track organizations. And it's a funny thing. I mean, this is a male-dominated sport. You're in a male-dominated industry as well.
We don't like to say male-dominated. We just say that happens to be a lot of men.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a male majority.
Let's be PC about it and say there happens to be a lot of men.
Yeah.
And so it is true with ours. And every organization up here is run by men. And it was very hard to get them to understand like a woman's needs, and maybe the reason why there's so few women in the sport, because it's intimidating, number one, for a woman to choose to do this. And then when you get there, it's almost like they don't want you there. And it's difficult. And so it does take a person with a much thicker skin or a FU attitude to be able to break through that. And I didn't like the fact that they would not take into account some of my suggestions to make it a little bit more female friendly. And so that's when I branched off and did my own thing and started my own company. And I didn't start the company started prior to me, but that's when I branched out into being a track organizer.
Love it. I want to just go back a little bit and just say I appreciate you saying the intimidation thing, right? Like when I started flying, I was totally intimidated. People probably don't know that about me now, like because I've been doing it for so long, but absolutely, it's an intimidating thing, especially when you don't have people around you that look like you. Right. And I think that's something we don't say a lot.
No, and they treated us, oh God, I hate to put this, I hate to even say this, because you're female, they see you as an accessory more than somebody of authority. And that was very difficult to break through in the beginning, because I think they expected me to start something and then just be like every other female, in their heads. Oh, she'll lose interest and she'll bow out. But the harder they fought with me, the harder I fought back.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's what we need more women to do.
Yeah. And I'm not going to say it was easy. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I cried myself to sleep because I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I fighting so hard? And then you have to think about why you're doing it. And I'm doing it so that I'm making it accessible for more women to enter the sport in a nurturing manner, an accepting manner.
Which there are going to be generations of young girls that benefit from the changes you made, the people that follow you make, that you made.
Yes. Yeah. But I don't even care about that. I just want to make this accessible to everybody and have that environment. And we way back when, the environment in track days was very family oriented. And what I've seen in the past few years is the men have more geared themselves into like the racer mentality, right? And so my track days aren't really geared towards racer mentality. I'm trying to make it so it's safe and family oriented. And yeah, we do have tons of racers. In fact, we have tons of racers because our numbers are low. We keep our riders per session at a limit so that you can have this massive amount of track to really get around and really work on things at a much higher speed that you would when you're racing. So I've had a lot of racers start doing my days because they know they have a ton of open track to do it in and safely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just I help out with the country Uruguay, and they had a safety day and they asked me to be an intro speaker. And someone offered that the what I should start out for in my introduction was this thing in Afghanistan, right? The C-17 taking off with all those
Ooh,
Afghanis. Yeah, I know it's hard, it's tough, but at the same
yeah,
time, just like what you talked about, like where you go and you practice on these open fields where there's a ton of space, and it's so critical. Like we take it for granted sometimes, doing things at the very basic level over and over and over again. But that's so that you can get into situations like that one in Afghanistan, and the races that you do with this foundational understanding of what you're able to do with your machine. And
yeah.
you can then focus on the higher level things of, well, holy smokes, all these people are hanging onto my aircraft when I do.
Right. Because you have that solid foundation from your training that you're not giving as much of your brain cells towards that. You're focusing on the challenge.
Exactly. It becomes muscle memory.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, while it's a little bit of a different sport, it's still very similar. And I think that we as females, and I don't mean to like categorize or say anything, but or maybe it's just the newer generation or people like us of our mindset of like, we worked really hard to get to where we are. Those people that worked really hard to get where we are really appreciate those kind of things versus those who were just kind of handed whatever they're doing. Okay.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And people only see where you currently are as well. And so what pisses me off is when people take a look at me and see the stuff I've done, they'll go, oh, well, you didn't have to work so hard at it. Really? What you're seeing is the end result. What you haven't seen is the 10 years it took for me to get here.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jenna talk about that a lot, the importance of showing the progression versus just presenting that end result, because that also helps encourage people. Because if they don't know how hard you work to get there, they may not know that it requires that amount of hard work. So they need to see that hard work. So,
but how many people these days are willing to commit to that hard work? And so it's easier for them to pass judgment on the end result, what they're currently seeing, than to even the people that have done the hard work understand what it takes to get there.
Right.
But the people that see the end result and don't really want to work that hard can't even fathom the amount of work and the heartache and the struggles it takes, the challenges it takes to get there.
How can we communicate that? Although we're not going to fix the people that don't want to do the hard work.
No. Well, we live in a generation where everybody wants to be a YouTube star, right?
A TikTok star.
I know, whatever it is, like easy fame. And there is no such thing.
No.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. Well, I think that we don't fix it for those people that need the easy fame. We get on phone calls like I do with Carol and listen to her talk about like the helmets she wants to put on her head and how she has to fit it, and like it has to be specialized because she's such a bad ass.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yes.
That's what we
fix
focus
it
on.
and show it for the people that want to do the hard work to get where you are.
Yeah. And it takes, I mean, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I got broken fingers. I've got all kinds of stuff, I mean, we have the scars to show it, but I think the scars are what make the great stories.
Yeah.
Without a freaking doubt. Yeah. And I mean, my kids, when they have kids, we'll be able to have pictures and talk about stuff, and they're going to be like, holy crap, Grandma, really? Can't wait for that day.
I used to say when I was at the academy, like people would ask me why I did some of the things I did, which I was a little bit crazy, but I was like, I want my grandkids to think how cool their grandmother was,
Right. Here you'll be knitting away and they'll be like asking you questions. They'll see pictures of your badass doing what you do. And then they'll be like, what?
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
I do that now. I'll let like a little something slip and I'll just see like the eyes growing wider.
Oh yeah.
It's like, but we just thought you were this boring pilot.
See, they just don't know. And maybe it's best they don't know, because when they do learn it, it's pretty cool. Like their reaction.
One of my favorite memories is, and it's a favorite and also kind of makes me upset at the same time, but like my mother, I mean, I've been to Afghanistan 6 times, or Afghanistan and Iraq. I've been in a lot of combat, and she watches a lot of Fox News, and this was big in 2016 about women in combat, right? And I remember I was driving, I had my hands on the steering wheel, and she's like, Jen, women really just don't believe in or shouldn't be in combat. And my hand's just like, now, the only thing I could think to myself was like either my PR campaign of making sure she only thought that I was a paper pusher was very effective.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
she just thought I was an admin person. And or like I didn't express to her more of what I was actually doing, which maybe I should have. I don't know.
Maybe it was a godsend.
Yeah.
You know, it's a double-edged sword. If you tell them and they know, then they worry.
Yes.
If you downplay it and they just can make their comments while you crunch your steering wheel, you know, death grip it, then, I mean, I don't know which one's better. Sometimes to me, it's like gripping that steering wheel is a hell of a lot better than telling them the 100% truth, because I don't know if they would be able to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Well, there's always
It's okay, because my dad hates what I do. In fact, he thinks it's a hobby. And he doesn't understand, like when I tell him I have a business, and so my parents are Taiwanese. My mom passed away a long time ago, but my dad seems to think this is a hobby. And when I tell him I have this company, he thinks it's a joke. He doesn't realize, like, no, I actually have a company, Dad. Like, I don't know what you think I'm doing. Like, this is not a hobby.
people actually seek me out
Yeah.
on track days for me to organize these things. Yeah.
Shocker. Yeah.
Like I can
We're
learn how to ride better.
and he hates motorcycles. He even told me he doesn't want me to do it. And I'm like, well, that's a bit too late.
You're like, I'm kind of a badass now. So
You know,
right now.
well, he's old traditional. Like, women have their place. They're supposed to be submissive, you know, and unfortunately for him, I was born in the States. So I was an American kid. And the way I was raised was pretty irreverent to everything that is our culture. Yeah.
Sorry, Dad.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dad, but yay for all of the people that get to look up to you.
Yeah.
How about your brother? Did he come around?
Well, okay. And this is the irony. My brother's a stuntman.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh yeah. Laugh about it. Right.
But riding a motorcycle is too dangerous?
Well, no. And he's ridden motorcycles forever. He just didn't want me riding motorcycles because it was quote unquote too dangerous for me. And I understand his concern because of course I had kids and everything. And he was again worried about me having an accident and the kids not having a mother. Right. And my thought was, so I'm going to put my life on hold forever for my children now that I've had them. I mean, I put my life on hold for almost 20 years for them. And when do I get to live my life again? And I think that's also a struggle for most women that have children, right? Is how many people tell them, oh, well, you know, you have kids now, so you have to be responsible. And yeah, you do, but you can take calculated risks. Oh, yeah. And I mean, I waited till my kids were old enough where, God forbid, if anything did happen to me, you know, I mean, they were much older and everything was put into place and they have a dad too. So it was going to be fine.
You just hit on something else that's very interesting to me. And I'd like to dive into that a little bit is,
sure.
You know, I think our society, a lot of societies see men as more disposable, like, and since I've had a son, I've kind of recognized that in our society. And we put this whole like cover on it, calling it feminism, like we are rah, 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 women are strong. But it's really the part of the reason that we don't get access to some of the same things that men do is because our families are protecting us because we're valuable. Right. And that's the unspoken to me.
Yes. It's almost like we're the ones that have to take care of the children.
Yeah.
And by the way, I gave up my career to raise my kids.
Right.
So I get it. But at the same time, I gave up my career. So there was the sacrifice there. When do I reap the rewards for that sacrifice?
Yeah. But it's hard for a lot of people to process that. And especially when it comes to women in combat, is because we think men can go out and they can die. It's not a problem. Like the family will live without the dad, which is that is a sad,
It sucks.
sad,
Yeah.
terrible mindset. But that's how we've been grown up, like since war, the warriors of Rome and Trojans and all that. But
they went off to war. Yeah.
But really,
True.
I mean, what would happen if we started losing mothers? Maybe we can, and it hurts to think of that, but at the same time, like,
yeah,
we'll never. I don't think we'll, as a society, ever get progressively better at that until we are ready to let.
Okay.
Go. Okay. Yeah. Go.
Yes, it's horrible to lose a mother. And I think it definitely strikes a different chord when that happens. But isn't every life equally important, whether you're male or female?
Right.
And why are we choosing a gender, to say that's more important? Of course, when we lose a female racer, it really resonates throughout the industry, right? But it should be equally important that when we lose anybody, that it resonates the same way, whether you're male or female. I think it's because there's fewer females. So it does hit a chord, much, much deeper chord for us. But I'm trying to develop this environment of equality and acceptance of everyone. And it's hard to do that if we're going to still focus on little things like that, where the female, losing a female life it resonates more than losing a male life.
Yeah. It's the unspoken. That's our society's talking about, but I totally appreciate it.
Yeah. I like how you phrase that, Jen, because it's most often viewed from using the female perspective of the pain of losing a woman. We're not asking why aren't we asking why it's not as important that we're losing men?
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
Like how you phrased it. You turned that a bit.
Yeah.
All right, Carol, what's the fastest you've ever been on a motorcycle?
Oh my God. I wish I could tell you. I never look down. Because if I'm looking down, that closing speed is not good. So I try. We usually get in the habit of taping up the Speedo.
Oh.
Because then you're not looking.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's dangerous to look down when you should be looking forward.
Oh, I bet, because every bump matters probably at that.
Well, think about the closing speed. If you're going 175 miles an hour, if you look down, how much have you covered in that time frame? Yeah.
That is so badass.
So you don't look. But we've talked about this, even being able to have you in a helicopter and me on the sport bike, just going for it. That'd be so much fun.
Doing it.
Yeah.
Yes. Then I'd be my little 172 going, wait for me, going 105 knots. Wait for me.
We're doing it. It's gonna happen. We've got to make this happen, Carol. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I want to see that after you guys do the cool rotary wing motorcycle one. We'll
yeah. So Carol, where can people? Yeah, where can we find you if we want to learn more about you? How could the people that are in audience connect with you?
MotoVixens.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and it has a contact area. You can learn a little bit about me. My track events are on TrackRabbit, so it's motovixens.trackrabbit.com, and that has a list of my dates, my upcoming dates, which obviously we finished our season for ours, but it'll have our dates for next year eventually on there, and it'll give you what the requirements are and what to bring and how we do our process.
And you're based mostly out of the Northwest?
Right? We are. I'm based mostly out of Shelton, Washington at the Ridge Motorsports Park.
So awesome. I'm coming to see you.
You should. And, some of the best ways of learning or seeing a motorcycle is riding 2-up. And we have a lot of guys that ride 2-up, to show people around. And if you have never done that on a motorcycle, it is quite the experience. And this, I want to say was it July? I had Jason Pridmore here, and he's kind of our main coach that teaches on our days. And we kind of had a session to ourselves, and we were chasing down one of our girls that's on my team. So we were kind of watching her ride, but kind of behind. And we did 2 warm-up laps. He tapped my leg, and for 20 minutes we hauled butt around the track.
That's awesome.
And it was unlike anything you've ever seen before. I'll actually send you the video, because the video, somebody chased us while we were doing it.
Okay.
And it was insane. And he uses it, the video, as a teaching tool, because when I'm behind Jason, I can feel when he sets up. So I know how soon he's setting up before we go into a turn. And it helps me as well set up around where he's setting up. But if you watch us, we do things in tandem.
So cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
We'll need some video of you racing too, so that can be our.
Oh, yeah. I like to call myself now a pretty much retired racer, because I'm interested in getting other people into it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
My time and my devotion now are kind of geared towards other things. And it's mainly to get more women into the sport, more women into racing, and really seeing more diversity.
Awesome.
And acceptance.
Well, that's what Amelia Earhart said. And that's a foundational tenet of Malou Project. If you had the runway to take off, your job then is to set up other runways so others can take off.
Yeah. If you build it, they will come.
That's right.
Absolutely. I'm visiting a MotoVixens Malou Project track event.
Something.
Oh my God. Just so you know, we do have helicopters that do fly into the ridge. So that's not out of the question.
I think we need to get to Washington.
Yeah. And I live in a place where we have a private runway.
Oh.
So you could land here.
What if it's a helicopter? I don't need a runway.
Well, I know you don't need a runway, but
She
just to
likes
give
to
you an
run it.
idea, there's a massive piece of land that you could, land it.
I'm saying that for my benefit.
Right. So a little jelly carry.
I can land.
It's just like all you need to do is go up and down.
Like, I don't necessarily need a runway, but I do need at least 500 feet.
No.
Oh, we do have that.
Jen does not need 500 feet.
Oh, well,
So yeah,
that's being generous.
Carrie's a fixed wing pilot, but she flies the stoles, the short takeoff and landings.
Sure.
You can do it like very short landings, but still not a helicopter.
Still not a helicopter. It's all cool. I love.
Do you know how cool that would be? My neighbors would be like, "Oh, that's badass."
See, we
That's
need a
badass.
helicopter and me in a super cup.
There you go.
Done. I'm seeing this already. This is gonna happen. So stay tuned. You guys all have to watch. Smash that like button, subscribe, find out we're gonna do this event. It's gonna happen.
Figure it out and better not come watch it.